You're listening to Radio Free Sens, and this is your half-assed Round 1 playoff preview. So first of all, hello, and welcome back to the Ottawa Senators. I'm Luke. Currently, I'm the bartender at the Senegoth Lounge, and I'm a former blogger and podcaster at Welcome to Your Carlson Years, and I also did a little project about 10 years ago called the Chet and Luke Podcast. I've been around these Sens blocks, and this is your half-assed playoff preview. And the point of the half-assed playoff preview is that I'm going to tell you what's going to happen in the upcoming playoff series. And the reason that I know what's going to happen in the upcoming playoff series is that I look at some charts made by friend of the pod, Micah Blake McCurdy, and then I just think about them real hard. And then I'm able to determine how the Sens are going to win and why, just by using the power of logic and math. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to basically show my work. I'm going to show you some charts, explain what they mean, and then you can decide for yourself if that makes sense or if I'm full of it. You know, this is a scientific process. I welcome free debate. So, I'm going to show you why I'm saying what I'm saying, and you can decide for yourself if you like my logic or not. And I want to be very clear on this point because I feel like this is important. Although this is a scientific endeavor, it's not an objective one. I'm never going to come in here and say, oh, well, actually, according to my calculations, the Senators only have a 27.3% chance of winning the series. No. Enough of that. I'm going to tell you why the Sens are going to win. So if you want to hear about why the Sens might lose, check out someone else's video. Maybe the hockey guy has something written on his whiteboard about why the Sens will lose. Not here. My PowerPoint, using the power of PowerPoint, in fact, I will be dominating the hockey guy in the presentation brain space on YouTube. So let's start with Ottawa. They're a great team at 5-on-5, pretty good offense, excellent defense, and since about the beginning of December, they've had excellent 5-on-5 expected goal metrics. But it wasn't until about the middle of January when the goaltending finally reached fabled league average levels that the team was really able to kick into gear, win some games, and that's what drove them to the playoffs. In terms of the talent distribution and the results at 5-on-5, all your favorite players are here. Jordan Spence, Brady Tkachuk, Dylan Cousins, Drake Batherson, Jake Sanderson, Thomas Chabot, Fabian Zetterlund, Tim Stützle, Claude Giroux. All these guys are very good. And something I find interesting, at least stylistically, about the Senators is that there's no difference in terms of the icings by the opponent per hour, which to me tells me that Ottawa plays a very homogenous offensive style up and down the lineup. They're very responsible. They take what they can get in the offensive zone, and they don't try to force plays or make pinches to keep the puck in the zone. They just want to get in, see what they can accomplish, and if the answer is nothing, they make sure they get back. And they're not really trying to punish teams with relentless offense. They just want to be a real lunch pail team that gets it done over the long term through their superior possession numbers and the outstanding skill of players like Tim Stützle. If we look at the overall talent distribution of the Senators, this might be a shock to some of you because I yell to Mike about this all the time, that Tim Stützle is not a second line forward. Like Tim Stützle and Claude Giroux should be switched, obviously. But still, in general, I think this is a pretty good overall picture of where Ottawa's got talent and how it gets used. And in particular, I think Ottawa's got the strong top nine. which can be basically used against anyone. You can see that Tarvis Green has no preference in terms of uh, what sort of quality of competition he puts his top nine out against. In comparison, you can see that this soft fourth line underbelly, they get the easy minutes in terms of the competition. And, that's fine. I think that's pretty standard around the league. On the defensive end, we can see that Ottawa's got their big three of Jake Sanderson, Jordan Spence, and Thomas Chabot. And then they've got the rest who are basically there just to be on the pairings with Jake Sanderson, Jordan Spence, and Thomas Chabot. And we'll see how Travis Green creates his pairings as the series progresses. But in general, I think Ottawa's got excellent defensive depth, both in terms of their forwards and their defensemen. And that's part of the reason why they've been so successful this season. So moving on to the bad guys. If you know anything about Carolina, and in fact, I think the only thing most people know about Carolina is that they are the Corsi team. They are the analytics team. They are the team that always looks scary on the graphs. And here's what scary graphs look like. Extremely strong offense, extremely strong defense, strong expected goal differentials throughout the year. And the only fly in the ointment, if you like, is that sometimes their goaltending is quite suspect, as we can see here in the bottom right. And really, if it wasn't for that pesky goaltending, it seems like Carolina would never lose. And obviously, with a team that has extremely good average metrics, individually, they are also very strong. And this particular graph really stuck out to me, at least the graph on the right, because I realized that while Ottawa's forwards all exist in this range here, between 4 and 5 icings by the opponent per hour, like Taylor Hall, Jackson Blake, and Logan Stankoven are all the way up here at almost 6.5. And they're keeping the puck in the offensive zone. They're hemming teams in. They're getting great offensive chances. Their expected goals for per 60 is extremely good. This line of Taylor Hall, Jackson Blake, and Logan Stankoven are just killing teams. Just absolutely destroying them. And I can tell you why right now. Well, Carolina has these, big boys up front with Aho, Jarvis, Svechnikov. These guys are getting, pretty difficult matchups. And it's Stankoven, Blake, and Taylor Hall who are absolutely feasting on teams' bottom sixes. They are getting all the good matchups, even though they are, at least according to Micah, just as good as guys like Nick Ehlers or Svechnikov. So this is the real secret to the success for Carolina. This is their secret sauce, is that they are able to cause matchup nightmares for teams, especially in the regular season. In terms of their defensive depth, their big four are Jacob Slavin, Chatfield, Condre Miller, and Sean Walker. And they get basically the same matchups in terms of opponents. And, their bottom pair gets a little more sheltered. But again, this is kind of standard practice for an HL team, regardless of how good you are. You're going to have some players that you want to make sure they get their minutes in as favorable situations as possible. And Carolina is certainly no exception on that front. If we look at the scoring networks, so on the left side, we have who's passing to who, and on the right side, we have who's scoring the goals. And on the Ottawa side, there's no surprises. Kachuk is passing to Stützle. Stützle is passing to Batherson. Giroux is passing to Pinto. And again, if you watch a lot of Ottawa games, this should not be a surprise to you. We have, obviously, Zetterlund and Amadio and Pinto chipping in with some cheeky goals. And on the Carolina side, this is what I'm talking about right here. Jackson Blake, Stankoven, Taylor Hall, 22, 21, 18 goals between them. They are destroying teams. This is what makes Carolina special, and this is what makes Carolina such a difficult matchup for so many teams, is that they've just got this third line that goes in and hems the other guys in and scores on you. Moving along to the goaltending, I've heard that it's going to be Allmark versus Anderson in net, and that Carolina is going to start Anderson in the playoffs. And what's interesting about this matchup is that, at least on average, Allmark's had a better season than Anderson. Both guys had this period in the beginning of the year where they were letting in way too many goals, but then both guys turned it around in the last 20 games or so of the season, and both have been extremely hot, to say the least. And I think that's why Carolina might go with Anderson to start the series. Also because Brandon Bussey started out like a house on fire and has been absolute dog water of late. So, I mean, if Carolina does go with Bussey, I mean, obviously he's been better than Allmark on average, but certainly not lately. So I would welcome the chance to play this guy if I was Ottawa, because they might be able to get to him early. Looking at the power plays now, Ottawa's power play is good. Carolina's PK is also good. And Carolina's power play is good. And Ottawa's penalty kill is good. So no real opportunities for advantage there. Although a sort of warning sign might be the fact that Ottawa is especially reliant on their power play to provide goals. So if those goals dry up somehow, either because fewer penalties are getting called or because they just can't seem to get through Carolina's penalty kill, that could be a real warning sign for Ottawa, because they need to be cooking on the power play to keep things rolling. So that's the macro level view of both teams. But what about when they've played each other this season? Here we have the expected goal worm for the 3 games they played this season, and basically how the expected goals evolved with time. And in the first game, Ottawa ended up with a significant expected goal advantage, but Carolina was up 4-0 after 30 minutes. So as far as I'm concerned, this game doesn't count. And if you do have to count it, then it's really good for Carolina. In the next game, we can see that Ottawa played Carolina quite closely. It was tied late in the third. Ottawa, again, had a fairly significant expected goal advantage. But then there was a late goal by Carolina, which gave them the win. And the main thing that both these games have in common is the fact that James Reimer was heavily implicated in these goals. And when Linus Ullmark got back in there in the game on April 5th, we can see that Ottawa absolutely ran riot over Minnesota. They were up 5-2 late, and then it was a 6-3 final. And I'm going to focus on this particular game, the 6-3 win, because I think that's got the blueprint in terms of how Ottawa is going to win this series. And it all comes down to the matchups. So as we previously mentioned, Taylor Hall, Logan Stankoven, Jackson Blake, this is the line that makes the difference for Carolina. This is the line that makes them special. And what Tarvis Green did to sort of deal with this, I think, is notable. And I think we're going to see it quite a bit throughout this series. The first thing he did is he put Pinto and Amadio on the Aho line. So obviously Pinto and Amadio are the big defensive forwards for Ottawa, and they did quite well shutting down the top line of Carolina in this game. When they did go out against the Stankoven line, they got pummeled, but that's up to Rod Brindamore to make happen. If Tarvis Green gets his way, he's perfectly happy to have Pinto and Amadio taking one of Carolina's top lines out of the picture. So with that squared away, we then move on to the Cousins, Kachuk, Greg line, which Tarvis Green just used whenever he could in the offensive zone. If there was an offensive zone face-off, Cousins, Kachuk, and Greg were getting it, and they just absolutely dominated the shot count against everyone because of that deployment. You can see that line had 2 goals. Brady Kachuk had 2 goals. Just a dominant offensive forward from the Cousins line, which leaves the Stutzla-Batherson line with Giroux. And this line was primarily matched up against the Stankoven line with a little bit of time against the Ehlers line as well. And you can see that obviously that line did great. And I think this is going to be a favorable matchup for Ottawa if they can get it. I think if Ottawa can sort of take care of the matchup problems by putting Stutzla up against Stankoven, this will be very favorable for them. And you can see that, again, Stutzla had a goal, Giroux had a goal. Real good game for them. The bad news, obviously, is that the fourth line just got absolutely run by everyone. But what are you going to do? It's a fourth line. And, if you're up 5-2, it doesn't really matter what happens to the fourth line. So this is the blueprint, as far as I can tell, for how Ottawa is going to handle Carolina. And obviously, there's going to be a chance for Carolina to adapt to this, but I haven't really seen a history of adaptation in the past. Let's look at Carolina's most recent exits from the playoffs. Here we have Carolina losing in 7 to the New York Rangers. They went up 3-2 in the series, and then that got blown out in the last 2 games. New York made an adjustment, and Carolina didn't. In 2023, they just got absolutely swept off the ice by Florida. Again, both these teams had well over 100 points. These were extremely good regular season teams who really couldn't get the job done once the playoffs hit. And it was a similar story in 2024. Again, another Carolina team with well over 100 points in the regular season immediately went out and went down 3-0 to the Rangers before the Rangers closed it out in 6. And then last year's Carolina team, again, went down 3-0, managed to finally win a game in the conference finals, but Florida won that series easily in 5 games. And to me, the open question is Rod Brindamore a playoff coach, or is he just a regular season systems guy? It seems like his teams do very well when the competition's easy and teams aren't really game planning for him. But in the playoffs, when there's a lot of tape and your game plan really matters and what matchups you can find really matters, we haven't seen Rod Brindamore get it done. And I favor Tarvis Green in the coaching matchup, at least until proven otherwise. The last graph I'm going to show you now is what Micah calls the shot patterning, but it's much easier to explain by looking at the axis. The x-axis is the average time between shots, so it's kind of like inverse shot rate. So a team that has a lower average time between shots is bad at defense, and a team that has a higher average time between shots is good at defense. And we can see Ottawa here. They have excellent defense. In fact, they're second in the league in terms of average time between shots. In the y-axis, we have the average expected goal per shot. So in the y-axis, it's how often do you allow a shot, and in the x-axis is how often do you allow a shot, and in the y-axis, it's how dangerous is that shot. And Carolina is all the way up here in the top left, where they rarely allow shots, but the shots they do allow are quite dangerous. And someone who actually watches the games. I mean, obviously, I don't watch the games. Who has the time? Who cares? I'm not watching the games, but I'll look at a graph, and I'm looking at a graph right now. And in my opinion, this is a sort of I would expect this from a team that has weak transition defense, that is susceptible to getting scored on the rush. And we've already seen that Carolina seems to have very aggressive in-zone cycling. And I think this might open up the opportunity for Ottawa to score on the transition. So that's something to keep an eye on in the series is, can Ottawa weather the storm in their defensive zone and then turn it into fast offense and get high danger chances against the Carolina Hurricanes. So, in conclusion, Carolina is really good in the regular season because they can cause huge matchup problems for against many teams in the league, and in particular the Hall, Stankoven, Blake line. That's the thing that really makes Carolina special. And all that being said, I think Ottawa's got a great chance here because they have the tools to deal with these matchup challenges. And in particular, I think Pinto and Amadio being able to take out one of Carolina's top 6 lines will give Ottawa the opportunity to put Stützle up against Stankoven. And that's a matchup that I think Travis Green is going to want. I don't think Ottawa's at a disadvantage in net at all. If anything, they might even have the advantage. This is one of those X factors where it's like, hey, if one of the goalies stops every puck, guess what? They're going to win. Yeah, you're right. But where's the fun in that? You know, we're all going to die someday, eat at Arby's. But on average, I think Ottawa's got the advantage there. Special teams, also something to watch out for. Could be good for Ottawa, could be bad for Ottawa. Who knows? It's the playoffs. Don't take penalties. Again, like and subscribe for more of these penetrating insights. And my final point is that Travis Green's been coaching his ass off all year. Rod Brind'Amour, I need to see it. I think I like Travis Green in this matchup more than I like Rod Brind'Amour because, again, I know one of these guys is real good at coaching, and the other guy I'm not so sure about. I just want to see it. Is that so wrong? Just if Rod Brind'Amour comes out and has all the matchups ready, and Ottawa just gets rolled, I'll take the L. I'm happy with that. But I need to see it first. I need to see it from Rod Brind'Amour before I'm willing to say that he's a good coach. And so it's now time for me to deliver my prediction. And as I was preparing this, I thought I was going to be the only one to have the insight that Ottawa matches up well against Carolina. But it turns out that everyone and their dog actually agrees with me on this. And picking Ottawa as a favorite, or at least no worse than a 50-50 shot to win the series, isn't really a contrarian insight at this point. So in the interest of being as bold as possible, I'm just going to come out and say it. This is Sens in 5, folks. I think Ottawa handles Carolina easily, and Carolina has no pushback. And, if you want a sort of mealy-mouthed, wishy-washy prediction, like, oh, both teams are very good, it's going to be a tough series for both, and, it's going to come down to small differences, and it's a real coin flip, and blah-de-blah-de-blah, go listen to someone else. I'm not here to be wishy-washy. This is Sens in 5. So there you go. Take a picture, write it down, send it to folks, and settle in for a real good series, which I think Sens fans are going to enjoy. So that concludes the half-assed playoff preview. As usual, like, comment, share, subscribe, everything else. And I'll see you back for round 2 when I explain to you how Ottawa's going to beat the Pittsburgh Penguins at long last. Thanks for watching. Have a good night. Enjoy Game 1, and we'll see you soon.